listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the Ring of Honor Wrestling Review from March 9th, 2023. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on the Ring of Honor Review. Of course, the main thing that we are going to be talking about is the feud between Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli. Where is this going to be leading to? We're going to be talking about that right here on the review. Plus, we also are on the road to Supercard of Honor, and on Rampage this past Friday, that being last night, Mark Briscoe announced that there will be a Reach for the Sky ladder match taking place at the Supercard of Honor pay-per-view, and the first participants that are going to be in the match are going to be the Lucha Brothers. So we got a lot of things to talk about right here on the review. That's a lot of, great, interesting things that are going to be happening at Supercard of Honor. But overall, what were my thoughts on this ROH review, or on this ROH show, I should say? My apologies. And if you guys haven't noticed, I'm actually at a different setting. I'm actually at work right now filming this review when I have my time off. But overall, what were my thoughts on this show? Personally, I actually thought that this show flowed so much better than last week's show, in my opinion. I thought last week's show, even though I thought it was good, it kind of felt a little too long, in my opinion. And there's pros and cons when it comes to this show, that being Ring of Honor, in particular, being 2 hours. Now, the benefit of this, the pro is that you own your own streaming service, that being Honor Club. You can basically book the show how long you want, basically. That's the whole gist of the whole thing. But the con is you can't put too much. I feel like at the end of the day, for a wrestling fan like me that watches Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, and now Ring of Honor, I think 2 hours is a little bit too much. But overall, even though I'm not really the biggest fan of the 2 hours for Ring of Honor, I get why they do it. Tony Khan is trying to really give you quality matches for Ring of Honor, considering the fact that Ring of Honor is solely based on wrestling. So he really wants to give you the best quality matches, in my opinion. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding Ring of Honor, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc Podcast, it is available on all of those platforms. All right, let's talk about Ring of Honor. Of course, I believe we had like 8 to 9 matches on this card, but as I stated at the top of this review, this show actually flowed so much better, and we had really good matches on this show. We had Samoa Joe versus Tony Deppen for the ROH television title. We had Aussie Open in action as well against Rhett, Titus, and Tracey Williams. We had Trish Adora versus Billie Starkz, which was actually a very, very, very good match. And of course, we had the main event being Athena defending her Ring of Honor women's title against Willow Nightingale in a fantastic match. If you guys haven't checked out that match, and for those who do not have Honor Club, I think it's definitely worth it for the $10 a month, in my opinion. And this match definitely is one of the reasons why. This match was absolutely fan-fucking-tastic, in my opinion. But we'll talk about those matches as we get on with the review. But in our opening match from Ring of Honor was Samoa Joe defending his Ring of Honor World Television title against Tony Deppen, the asshole himself. Yes, Tony Deppen, a great fucking heel, in my opinion. I was first introduced to Tony Deppen a couple of years ago on GCW, so that was great to see. It's great to see Tony Deppen on a major platform like Ring of Honor. But overall thoughts on this match, this was a very good match in my opinion. Of course, this match was basically booked for Samoa Joe to win. I mean, I don't think he's going to be losing that ROH TV title anytime soon, maybe until Supercard, because we found out who his challenger is going to be. Now, I believe that's going to happen at Supercard. The match wasn't officially announced, but Mark Briscoe did come out, but I'll talk about that later on. So the Code of Honor, of course, is applied. We get a kick by Joe, and both lock up. Both lock up once again, followed by a chop. Both lock up again. We get a wrist lock by Joe, followed by a chop by Tony Deppen. He goes after Joe. We get repeated rights by Tony Deppen, and then Joe proceeds to fight back. We get repeated, basically rights and chops after. We get a chop by Tony Deppen after that, and after the chop by Tony Deppen, crap, I messed up my notes. We get repeated chops. My apologies. Both he runs into a back elbow by Joe, but then we get a cover by Joe and a near fall. We get repeated shots by Joe, but then Joe counters to be in control. After that, we get a headbutt by Joe, and then Tony D tries to fight back. After that, Tony hits a couple of chops. Then he hits an elbow onto the back of the neck of Samoa Joe. And then Joe sends him into the corner. But then after that, Joe hits the enziguri after that. After the enziguri by Joe, later on in the match, we get a running knee by Deppen. We get a cover into near fall. Tony then goes to the top, but then he misses the stomp. And then he runs into a uranagi by Joe. And then Joe takes Tony Deppen, but then we get a roll-up by Tony Deppen after that. We then get a near fall. We get a clothesline by Joe, but then Joe takes Tony to the top. He then picks up Tony, but then Joe hits the Muscle Buster. Yes, he hits the Muscle Buster, and then we get a cover. And Samoa Joe retains the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. After the match, Samoa Joe gets the microphone, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, allow him to welcome us to the new Ring of Honor." After that, we get a bunch of ROH chants by the crowd in Universal Studios. And he says, like he said, there's a lot of new, and there's a lot that needs to be celebrated. But the one thing that remains true is that this ring right here, when it comes to Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe always runs things around here. As of now, our champion needs contenders, and he calls out anybody to come out and challenge Samoa Joe for his TV title. And who better to come out than Mark Briscoe? Mark Briscoe comes out, and he states, "It's been a long time, baby. What's good?" And then we get a bunch of Briscoe chants by the crowd, and Joe says that if he has something to say, then man up and say it. And then Mark Briscoe says, "You know exactly what I'm going to say." And he talks about how the TV title is his destiny, and talks about how, why don't we do this, me versus you? And Joe says that, anyway, any fight with Briscoe that he has, it's a good day for him. And Samoa Joe accepts the challenge, and it will now be Samoa Joe versus Mark Briscoe. My prediction is this match is going to be taking place at Supercard of Honor. Now, the match wasn't officially announced, but after this angle that they pulled right here, most likely it's going to be happening at Supercard of Honor. And honestly, that is a great decision to make, in my opinion. I think Mark Briscoe winning the TV title, in my opinion, would be the right direction to go. I mean, how long has Samoa Joe held that title? He's held that title since, I believe, April or May of last year, because he did beat Minoru Suzuki for that title on Dynamite last year. I can remember that match, and a very good match. But let's be honest with ourselves. You know, what really has Samoa Joe done with that television title? Not really a lot. Really, if you really think about it, his TNT title that he had is way more important than the TV title that he had. Now, granted, he no longer holds the TNT Championship. That went to Wardlow, and then it flip-flopped all the way to Powerhouse Hobbs. That's another can of worms that I want to talk about, that I don't want to talk about right here on the show. If you guys haven't checked out my Dynamite review, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But overall, I think it's going to be a great match overall, and this is definitely the perfect opportunity for Mark Briscoe to get the win over Samoa Joe and win that Ring of Honor World Television Championship. So I'm definitely excited. Dalton Castle and the boys are backstage. Talks about how it pained him to see that they lost the six-man titles. Talks about how the embassy, and he basically says a lot of stuff. He says defeat isn't something that they tasted before. They've been beaten, but when they are down, they get back up and they become Chumbawamba. That's what Dalton Castle said. Dalton Castle is weird but funny as hell. They become stronger and more powerful. They are ready and strong, moving furniture all weekend, heavy, dense furniture. They are more than ready for those six-man tag team titles and hopes they stay in Simber. And they are about to be ready to go for the fight of their life. After that, we have Dalton Castle and the boys in action. They take on Marcus Kross, Cody Chun, and Guillermo Rosas. I'm not familiar with that trio at all, but yeah, man, I'm new to those guys. But Dalton Castle and the boys, of course, I'm very familiar with. Of course, the Code of Honor is applied. This match was relatively short. Of course, this match was just to put over Dalton Castle and the boys. Not really much happened in this match. Castle and Kross start. Both scream at each other, which was funny, but at the same time very cringe. Both chop over one another. After that, we get a chop by Cody. And then Castle catches Kross with the bangarang attempt, but then Castle gets taken to the outside. Then the boys go for a couple of body shots on Castle to kind of like make him more stronger. Why? I have no idea, but that's basically what the boys do. We get a bunch of technical wrestling by both. Castle throws Cody down, but then Rosas makes the tag. Castle then drops him down, but then Castle takes Rosa into the corner. Then one of the boys tags in. I believe that was Brent. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Brent and Brandon. I get confused watching both of them. Goes for the double team attempt, that being both of the boys, Brent and Brandon. After that, we got a double team by Rosas. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a drop kick onto the knee of Rosas. We get a cover and a near fall once again. Followed by a waist lock. We get a back elbow by Rosas, but then he takes one boy into the corner, and then he throws after that. Chin is in control. Rosas then tags in. We get a double team by Rosas on Chun, followed by a drop kick and a vertical suplex combination after that. Marcus Kross then tags in. He goes to the top, and then he misses the stomp, but then Brent goes for the enziguri. After that, Castle goes for the tag, but then Castle and Rosas fight it out. He then hits the fall-away slam. After that, he drops Kross, he drops Chun, and then everybody's on the outside, but then he throws Brandon to the outside, and then Brent gets thrown to the outside as well. Brandon then again sends him to the other corner, but then both boys take Rosas back in the ring. Dalton Castle then hits the bangarang. We get a cover, and Castle gets the win. Overall thoughts on this match. This match was pretty entertaining, to say the least. Like, you may not be a fan of Dalton Castle's gimmick. Like, trust me, I'm not the biggest fan of Dalton Castle's gimmick, but I'll say this: Dalton Castle and the boys are very, very, very entertaining to watch. And, you know, that's really what comes out of it. I mean, they're very entertaining to watch, and it's going to be very interesting to see the direction that they're going to be going in the future regarding Ring of Honor. So that's going to be something that we should be on the lookout for. Maria Kanellis, backstage with, of course, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven, basically cuts a promo, and they talk about how they made their return to Ring of Honor, and they basically introduce themselves, and they are the Kingdom. So then we get one match that was absolutely fan-frickin-tastic, that being Roosh and Dralistico taking on Serpentico and Angelico with Luther in their corner. This was a very, very, very good match. Now, one thing that I want to keep note regarding Ring of Honor, and I don't know if this is criticism or a complaint on my end, but what we really need to do, and this is very important, I feel like, for Ring of Honor, is that there's a lot of crossover with a lot of AEW talent. That can be a good thing, but at the same time, that can be a bad thing. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of talent that is exclusive to Ring of Honor, but that at the same time, there's a lot of other talent that is from AEW coming into Ring of Honor. Now, if you're starting up Ring of Honor, it would make total sense for you to do that, but at the same time, where is the actual, you know, who is assigned to what roster and what? It's kind of, I don't want to say the same issue that WWE has with the brand split, because when it comes to the brand split, WWE has no care whatsoever regarding the brand split. They just literally flip-flop guys over and over and over again. But at the same time, when it comes to Ring of Honor and AEW, that's something that we really need to talk about, because there is a lot of crossover, and that is a good thing for now. But looking down, further down, Ring of Honor, I feel like, definitely needs to kind of establish its own exclusive roster. Granted, they technically have that, but at the same time, they're mixing it up with AEW talent. Like, you would have a couple of wrestlers that are not being utilized in AEW coming into Ring of Honor, and that is a good thing. But there's many different layers to the whole situation. You can either look at it as a good thing, but at the same time, you could either look at it as a bad thing. I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to that, but again, it's something that we should talk about. But overall, Roosh and Dralistico taking on Serpentico and Angelico was a very, very, very good match. Of course, once again, the Code of Honor is applied. We get a bunch of Roosh chants from the crowd. Now, I will say this. When it comes to the crowd wasn't as hot as they were in the beginning, that being last week's show. That's because of the fact that the first 4 episodes was taped in the span of 2 days. So, of course, they're going to cool off. But overall, the crowd was still great. We get a bunch of Roosh chants by the crowd. We get a kick to the head, or the hand, I should say, of Angelico by Roosh. That was before they applied the Code of Honor. Or after, I should say, they applied the Code of Honor. Roosh and Angelico start. We get an arm drag by Angelico, and then we get a bunch of back and forth maneuvers by both. We get a knee by Roosh, followed by a chop, but then Angelico gains the advantage. We get a knee and a chop by Roosh by Angelico, but then Serpentico makes the tag. We get a bunch of overhand chops. After that, we get a bunch of open hand shots by Serpentico. After that, Roosh no-sells those open hand shots. You gotta love Roosh, man. Roosh is absolutely fantastic. He goes on with the chop, but then Dralistico makes the tag. Then we get a chop by Roosh, followed by a crossbody by Dralistico. We get a chop by Dralistico, but then he lands on his feet. After that, he kicks the knee. We get a bunch of kicks and knee strikes by Dralistico. After that, we get a spinning kick by Dralistico, but then Roosh makes the tag. He then goes for an overhand chop. At this point, Roosh is the legal man. He then goes after Serpentico, but then we get a double team attempt by both men. After that, we get a double drop kick by both Roosh and Dralistico. After that, both are on the outside, that being Serpentico and Angelico after the drop kick by Roosh. Dralistico then goes for the somersault over the top rope to the outside. At this point, Roosh is in the ring. Roosh, it looks like he's going to go up and over to the ring, but instead, he doesn't do that. He trolls the fans, and he is in the ring. He basically trolls everybody. Fantastic stuff by Roosh, man. Roosh is going to be a big deal. I believe Roosh is a former Ring of Honor World Champion. I didn't follow Ring of Honor before the buyout, but I believe that is true to be the case, so it makes total sense for Roosh to be on here. But overall, that was great to see. Roosh, after trolling everybody, he poses to the hard camera. After that, Dralistico sends Serpentico to the post. He then sends Angelico to the guardrail, but then Roosh and Dralistico are in control. He grabs the cables, and he basically whacks Angelico on the outside. We then get a kick by Roosh, but then Dralistico is in the ring and is in control over Serpentico. After that, Roosh drives Angelico to the guardrail, but then Jose interferes without the referee looking. After that, Roosh takes Serpentico to the ropes, but then we get a springboard leg drop by Dralistico. We then get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Serpentico gets up, but then we get a couple of chops by Dralistico, followed by an overhand chop after that. Both Roosh and Dralistico repeatedly stomp on Serpentico at this point. They proceed to beat him down, basically. And what happens after that, we get an overhand chop by Roosh on Serpentico, but then Dralistico gets taken to the apron. He holds on to Serpentico, but then Roosh accidentally elbows Dralistico to the outside. Serpentico then goes for the cannonball onto the outside, but then Serpentico goes to the top. He lands into a headbutt by Roosh, but then we get repeated stomps on Serpentico into the corner. After that, Angelico comes in, but then we get an enziguri by Angelico, followed by a springboard, what it looked like was a code breaker, or a facebuster, I should say, by Serpentico. At this point, Serpentico is back on his feet, but then what happens? Roosh goes for the German suplex after that, followed by a corkscrew destroyer by Dralistico, which looked absolutely fucking sick. We get a cover, and Roosh and Dralistico get the win. After the match, Roosh and Dralistico try to remove the mask of Serpentico. Removing Lucha Libre masks is a common thing in the realm of both AEW and ROH, ladies and gentlemen. And then he rips it, and then Roosh goes for a right hand on Luther, and he throws the mask into the crowd. So Roosh and Dralistico are doing their heel shtick. But overall, thoughts on this match. This was a great match overall. You know, one of the things that I liked about this particular episode of Ring of Honor was the way that they showcased the talent, and they gave you a reason as to watch next week's show, because they would set up a couple of matches for next week as well. And I feel like Roosh and Dralistico were showcased very, very, very well. Now, granted, the audience that is watching this stuff already knows who they were, because of the fact that the majority of the audience, or some of the audience, was actually watching Ring of Honor because of AEW. So, you know, it's great to see Roosh and Dralistico on Ring of Honor. Fantastic stuff, and they definitely delivered 110%. In our first women's match of the evening, we have Trish Adora taking on Billie Starkz. I believe the story of Billie Starkz is Billie Starkz is 18 years old. That is crazy to think. I believe Nick Wayne is like 17 as well. Nick Wayne wrestles for GCW, and he wrestles in the Independents as well. And I believe he's currently signed to AEW. It's just when he gets, to the actual age that he's supposed to be, he's going to start wrestling for AEW. That is great to see because, we have a lot of wrestlers that start off very young, and they're definitely going to make their name for themselves. And Billie Starkz is one of them. She was very good in this match as well. But overall, I believe I've seen Trish Adora before. I just don't remember when, but I feel like I'm very familiar with Trish Adora. Billie Starkz I haven't seen, but Trish Adora I feel like I've seen her before. But overall, this match was actually very good. Trish Adora looked very good in this match. I loved the back and forth, and they really showcased. I feel like they showcased Trish Adora very well, and I feel like she's going to be an integral part in the future of Ring of Honor, in my opinion as well. Great match overall. Fantastic stuff. The Code of Honor is applied. Both lock up. We got a knuckle lock by Trish, followed by a wrist lock. We get an arm drag by Starkz, taking Trish to the outside, but then Starkz comes in to the outside and runs into an elbow. And then Trish picks her up and slams Starkz into the corner of the apron, which looked absolutely insane. And then she takes Billie Starkz into the ring. We got a roll-up by Trish Adora, and then we get a near fall. We got a standing hammerlock by Trish Adora, but then Billie misses the kick. We got a waistlock and a deadlift German suplex by Trish Adora. She follows up with a bridge. After that, we get a near fall after the bridge attempt. And then she applies her own version of the catamutilation, which is Bryan Danielson's maneuver. Starkz goes to the ropes, but then goes for a boot into the corner. Then Starkz hits a kick, but then Trish Adora hits a pump kick immediately. After that, we get a cover by Trish and a near fall. Trish follows up with an uppercut, but then Starkz fires back. We then get a right elbow by Starkz, and then Trish goes for the elbow. Both then exchange shots. We get repeated rights by Starkz, follows up with the spinning kick, and then all of a sudden, so this was actually my favorite part. The finish of this match was actually very good. So what happens is we get repeated rights by Starkz, but then what happens is Starkz ends up going, I believe it was a spinning back kick. But then Trish actually does not fall down. She actually stays up on her feet and then goes for a furious, and I mean a furious, lariat on Billie Starkz, and we get a cover, and Trish Adora gets the win. That was a fantastic finish, in my opinion. Trish Adora is, I feel like, definitely someone that we should all look out for. If you guys are watching Ring of Honor, I think she is somebody that's definitely going to be an integral part of Ring of Honor, as I've stated at the top of this match. But she's definitely going to be someone that we should all look out on, because Trish Adora is, from after this match, I feel like, again, I feel like I'm very familiar with her, but I just can't remember any of the matches that she was in, but she was very good in this match overall. But overall, great match. Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angel, the former X Division champion, ladies and gentlemen, also a Ring of Honor alum. He's in a backstage interview. Talks about how it's a new era of Ring of Honor, and one of his proudest achievements was becoming one of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. He wanted to tag with Kazarian. Of course, he wanted to basically reunite SCU, SoCal Uncensored, but due to circumstances that affected that. I believe he's talking about the fact that Kazarian is signed with Impact Wrestling right now. There is another man that is looking for a lot of opportunities, and he's talking about Matt Sydal. Matt Sydal comes in, and Matt Sydal answers him, yes. He took him from a backyard wrestler to an ROH Tag Team Champion, and there's nothing that they can do that they can accomplish. And they will now be tag team partners. So that is going to be great to see. I believe they were former tag team partners in the early years of Ring of Honor. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they were Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions as well. So that is great to see as well. It's going to be very interesting to see both Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal as a tag team. I will say, man, the tag team scene in Ring of Honor, even though they're taking a couple of teams from AEW, I'm being honest, man. The tag team scene in Ring of Honor is looking very, very, very interesting, especially from the tag team matches that we saw on this show. I mean, that Aussie Open match against Rhett, Titus, and Tracey Williams, holy shit. Even though Aussie Open is not part of either AEW or Ring of Honor, I believe they're part of New Japan as well, as a part of Will Ospreay's group, the United Empire. Still, man, Aussie Open was fucking fantastic. Again, the tag team scene in Ring of Honor is looking very, very, very good. We then get the Trustbusters, Slim J and Ari Davari taking on Matt Christ and Man Scout. Not familiar with those two whatsoever. I am familiar with the Trustbusters, but I am not familiar with their opponents at all. But it was a relatively short match. Of course, the Trustbusters went over. The Code of Honor is applied. Davari and Man Scout start. Davari takes the book away. So basically, the thing about Man Scout is Man Scout has a book, and he looks like the type of guy that's an adventurer, and he has the book in the center of the ring. You have Davari basically snatches the book away from Scout, and he throws it to the stage, and then he sends him to the corner. We get repeated stomps by Ari Davari, followed by a chop. Slim J then makes the tag. He then targets Man Scout's mustache, and then he picks him up and slams him down to the mat. We then get a cover and an ear fall. After that, Davari makes the tag. He follows up with the right hand, and then Davari gets taken to the corner. And then after that, Man Christ tags in, or Man Christ. I have no idea how to pronounce that. He tags in. Then, he goes for a couple of thrust kicks. After that, we get a forearm off the top by Jay Christ, or Christ. Jay Christ is fantastic, man. I haven't seen him before, but he is very good at what he does. He goes to the top again. He misses the crossbody, but then he tags Man Scout. We get a couple of right hands by Man Scout, followed by a kick by Slim J. We get a clothesline by Davari, but then Slim J makes the tag. He drops him down to the top, but then Slim J applies the STF. After that, Man Scout taps out. And after that, what happens? The ridiculous lawyer, Mark Sterling, comes in. After that, Mark Sterling, he gives them the microphone. Talks about how last week they beat Metalik all by himself, that being Davari. And he pinned him and in the center of the ring, fair and square. After that, Grand Metalik comes in, but then gets beaten down by both heels. And then what happens? Blake Christian, yes, Mr. Allhart, makes the save for Grand Metalik. It's so weird seeing Blake Christian as a babyface in Ring of Honor because he's currently a heel in GCW. I attended the Holy Smoke show last Saturday, and the heat that Blake Christian was getting from the GCW fans was absolutely hilarious. But Blake Christian is a babyface, and he made the save for Grand Metalik. Where does this lead to? We have absolutely no idea, but it looks like there's probably going to be a match happening next week on Ring of Honor. What that match is, I have absolutely no idea. We got a video package showcasing or saying that Roosh will be in action next week. I actually really like those video packages saying, like, yo, this wrestler is going to be wrestling next week on Ring of Honor. Do more of that. Do more video packages of wrestlers that we are not very familiar with, or fans that are just watching Ring of Honor like myself are not very familiar with. They should really do more of that. But I like the fact that, they did a video package kind of showcasing Roosh, saying that he's going to be here next week on ROH, even though he wrestled this week. We got one great match overall. I really loved this match. Wheeler Yuta taking on Timothy Thatcher for the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling Championship. Great stuff, of course. This match was announced last week on Ring of Honor television. And overall, I think this match was absolutely fantastic. If there's one thing that I really like about Ring of Honor is the Pure Championship. It really sets itself apart from a lot of other championships in Ring of Honor. And honestly, I think the Pure title is very, very, very intriguing, and it kind of sets itself apart, in my opinion. And Wheeler Yuta is definitely a great champion. He's doing a lot of heel tactics. Now, it's very interesting. Now, for those of you that attended the tapings, you're probably thinking, why is he doing a lot of heel shit? Well, this past Wednesday on Dynamite, you had the Blackpool Combat Club turn heel on the Dark Order. Yes, I said it. The Blackpool Combat Club are now heels, and I feel like that is the right direction. As I've stated in the Dynamite review, that is definitely the right direction for the Blackpool Combat Club to go in. And, Wheeler Yuta ended up doing a bunch of heel tactics in this match against Timothy Thatcher. He even won by cheating. Now, of course, one of the things that really I enjoy about the Pure Championship is the fact that it puts the test on the wrestler. And it really definitely did put both Timothy Thatcher and Wheeler Yuta to the test. So, of course, the Code of Honor is applied. After that, Thatcher goes for an armbar on Wheeler Yuta. As soon as he puts the armbar on Wheeler Yuta, Yuta goes to the ropes, and he already takes up his first rope break. So he already uses his first rope break. He now has 2 left. After that, Thatcher Thatcher then goes for a chin lock, but then later Yuta takes him down. Thatcher then regains control, but then Thatcher works on the fingers of Wheeler Yuta, and then he drives him down to the mat, which is absolutely insane to see. Thatcher then sends Yuta to the mat, but then he follows up with an elbow drop. We get a cover and a near fall. After that, Yuta, he picks up Yuta again and slams him once again. He then hits another elbow drop. We get a cover and a near fall. Yuta then counters Thatcher, and then he applies the octopus lock, and then he takes Thatcher to the ropes. Thatcher then uses the first rope break, so both men now have 2 rope breaks left. He misses the stomps onto the arm of Thatcher, and then Yuta stomps onto the arm of Thatcher. Then Yuta continues to work on the arm of Thatcher. We get a slap by Yuta, and then he takes him down. And then Yuta goes to the second rope, holding on the arm of Timothy Thatcher with a DDT. After that, he drops him down again, and then he hits a running senton. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. After that, Thatcher regains control with an uppercut, and then we get an uppercut by Thatcher, but then Yuta drives Thatcher down. We get a cover and a near fall. He then bites the side of the face of Thatcher. After that, we get a couple of elbows by Wheeler Yuta, but then Thatcher goes for the ripcord belly-to-belly suplex. After that, Thatcher goes for the double underhook. After that, we get a couple of kicks by Yuta, but then Yuta regains control. He continues to work onto the shoulder, but then Thatcher goes to the ropes. Thatcher uses his second rope break. After that, we get a senton by Yuta, but then Yuta goes for a kick. Then we get an uppercut by Yuta, but then Thatcher fights back. He then applies the hammerlock on Thatcher, but then we get a shot to the back of Thatcher. Thatcher then stands up, and then he goes for repeated uppercuts on Yuta in the corner. Thatcher then sells his left arm. Thatcher then picks up Yuta. After that, he takes him to the second rope, but then we get a shot to the back of Yuta after that. Yuta then attacks him with the closed fist. Now, when it comes to the closed fist, those are banned in the pure matches. Now, when it comes to the closed fist, if you hit one closed fist, that means that you get a warning, and Yuta ended up getting a warning. He takes him down to the top, but then Yuta goes for the angle slam. We get a cover and a near fall. Thatcher then gets his foot onto the ropes, but then Thatcher uses his third and final rope break. So now Yuta can literally apply a submission as long as he wants, and Thatcher can't go to the ropes because he already used all 3 of his rope breaks. See, that's what I really like about the Pure Championship. You know, again, it puts the test onto the wrestler, and if you really think about it, when it comes to the pure rules in many different matches, and when you're booking these matches, it really gives the opportunity for the heel to do a lot of different heel tactics, and that's what I really enjoy about these matches. For example, the ending of this match, or the finish I should say, was very good, considering the fact that Yuta is going against the pure rules at this point, but I'll talk about that later on. So after that, Yuta is in full control. We get a couple of forearms by Thatcher, but then Yuta comes back. He then hits a German suplex, but then we get a bridge by Yuta. We then get a near fall, and then Thatcher drives his shoulders on Yuta. And then Yuta goes for, he goes to the ropes and hits his second rope break after that. We then get an overhand shot onto the chest of Yuta, followed by a second one by Thatcher. After that, he picks up Yuta and drives him down to the mat. We then get a cover and a near fall. He drops him down once again, and then he hits a double butterfly suplex. We get a cover and a near fall. He drives his knees on Yuta, so at this point, Thatcher is in control. Then Yuta goes to the ropes, and he uses his final rope break. So both are even at this point. Now, both can use their submissions for as long as they want, and now, there's no restrictions when it comes to the rope breaks. Yuta then regains control. We get a couple of chops by Yuta, followed by a rolling elbow. We got a one-hand shot by Thatcher. Now, it's very interesting, especially in regards to Wheeler Yuta, considering the fact that Yuta is let off with a warning regarding the close fists. Again, close fists are banned in pure matches. So we get repeated stomps by Thatcher. The referee then can't stop it because of the pure rules, of course. Yuta is on the outside. The referee then gets pushed. Yuta then goes for a closed fist shot on the outside when the referee does not see. So Yuta basically cheated to win. After that, Yuta applies the octopus submission on Thatcher on the ropes. Thatcher ends up tapping out, and what happens is Wheeler Yuta regains the Ring of Honor Pure Championship in a great match against Timothy Thatcher. After that, Yuta gets the microphone, and so he gets the microphone, and he talks about basically the Blackpool Combat Club. He talks about how everyone talks about he is a champion and he rolls with 3 of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And he ain't doing laundry where on his $50 tracksuit. He talks about the LA Dojo boys, that being from New Japan, and they haven't accomplished anything. And then what happens? Clark Connors comes out. Yes, Clark Connors. The last time in AEW we saw Clark Connors was at Forbidden Door in that first, I believe it was the 4-way match for the All-Atlantic title, which was a great match. I believe I stated in the Forbidden Door review that Clark Connors was basically the MVP of that whole match. Clark Connors is absolutely fantastic. He doesn't know if we remember him, but his name is Clark Connors from the LA Dojo. He had a wonderful match with Thatcher. He's putting all these people to sleep, by the way, though. He has, he has John, Claudio, and Brian. Every one of those guys wished they trained under Kazuchika Shibata. After that, he talks about how he's coming for him, and he, if he thinks he's the pure champion next week, it should be Yuta versus Connors for that pure title. After that, Yuta gives basically him back the microphone. So what happens is Connors offers him the microphone, but then what happens is Yuta just doesn't allow it, and then what happens? Yuta walks up the ramp, and once he walks up the ramp, it looks like he's going to be a coward, but as soon as he's walking up the ramp, Yuta then accepts the challenge. So next week, we are going to be getting Clark Connors versus Wheeler Yuta for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. Overall, I think that's going to be a fantastic match. Now, I haven't seen the spoilers for what happened in the match because the match already happened. It was already taped. But from what I've heard, I heard the match was very good. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to be doing next week on Ring of Honor. After that, we got a fan-frickin-tastic, and I mean fan-frickin-tastic match between Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams in Aussie Open. I don't know about you guys, but Aussie Open is amazing. I'm not the biggest watcher of New Japan Pro Wrestling, but if there's anything that I can say about a team from New Japan, is that Aussie Open is probably one of the best tag teams in the world. They are absolutely fucking amazing. Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher are fantastic, man. The match that they had with Titus and Williams, great stuff. I absolutely loved this match. Once again, the Code of Honor is applied. Kyle Fletcher and Rhett Titus start. Williams tags in. He targets the shoulder of Kyle Fletcher, and then he gets away from Williams, but then Davis tags in. We get a drop toe hold by Williams. After that, he works on Davis, but then Titus tags in, and then Davis goes into the corner to avoid Rhett Titus. After that, Davis boots Titus, and then Fletcher takes out Williams. After that, we get a double team by the Aussie Open. We get a kick by Fletcher, followed by a senton by Mark Davis. We get a cover and a 1 count. We get a chop by Davis, followed by a second chop by Davis. And when I'm talking about those chops were very, very, very loud. Rhett Titus is taken into the corner, and we get a kick by Fletcher, and then he picks up Titus, but then Davis tags in. So basically, both are going back and forth. So what happens is Davis picks up Titus. Actually, no. Kyle Fletcher picks up Titus, right? And he has him up for a while, like a long time. And what happens is he gives Titus to Mark Davis, and he hits a delayed vertical suplex. Bandito is proud, ladies and gentlemen. Fletcher then tags back. We get a kick on Williams. He then sends Titus into the corner. He then hits a boot on Fletcher by Titus, I should say. He goes to the top, but then he misses. He then tags Williams, but then we get he clotheslines Davis. After that, we get a couple of chops by Kyle Fletcher. He drops him with a single leg suplex. After that, we get a kick by Davis, and then he follows up with a DDT on the second rope on Fletcher. We then get a cover and a near fall. He then takes Fletcher for a pile driver attempt, but then Fletcher fights back. Williams is on the apron, but then Davis comes in and holds on to the leg of Williams. But then Titus runs and boots Davis. Titus and Williams are on the apron, but then Williams misses the knee and lands onto the guardrail. Titus is then held by Davis, but then Williams is held by Kyle Fletcher. Both then drive their opponents spine to spine. Once we're back in the ring, we got a double team by Aussie Open. Fletcher is on the top, but then Davis picks up Williams. Fletcher then goes for the cutter on Williams. We get a cover and a near fall. Davis then tags in. Davis then picks up Williams, but then Williams escapes. We get a chop by Williams on Fletcher and Davis. And then Aussie open counter with the double elbow. After that, later, Williams hits the dragon screw on Kyle Fletcher. Then we get a tilt-a-whirl by Williams, but then he applies the face lock on Davis. Titus then comes in and applies the single leg Boston Crab on Fletcher, but then Davis rolls to the ropes, but then Fletcher pushes Titus on Williams and Davis. After that, Fletcher makes the tag. Titus then tags in, so at this point the hot tag is made. And then we get a kick by Titus, followed by a running knee on Titus, and then he hits the belly-to-belly on Kyle Fletcher after that. We get the running boot into the corner, but then Williams tags in. He follows up with an elbow, and then we get a drop kick by Titus, and then he goes for the lariat, that being Williams hitting the lariat. We get a cover engineer fall when Davis comes in, and who I should say makes the save. Titus then goes for the clothesline on Davis to the outside. Then Williams is he goes for the double knees on Davis to the outside. At this point, Titus is on the top. We get a knee drop on Fletcher, followed by a frog splash by Williams. We get a cover engineer fall. Williams then tries to go for the pile driver after that, but then Fletcher goes for the backdrop. We get a roll-up by Fletcher, but then by Williams, but then Fletcher goes for the spinning tombstone. Yes, they go for a tombstone pile driver. After that, we get a super kick by Fletcher, and then Davis hits the reversed spike down pile driver. After that, we get a double clothesline by Aussie Open on Williams, and then Aussie Open hits the Coriolis, and then we get a cover, and Aussie Open get the win. I know that was a lot of notes to take in, ladies and gentlemen, but man, those were basically spot by spot, hopefully, that happened in this whole match. This match was fantastic. Even though, again, I'm not really the biggest fan of the 2 hours regarding Ring of Honor, considering there's a lot of wrestling shows happening on a week-to-week basis. Overall, man, matches like this kind of makes me happy that the show is 2 hours, considering the fact that it basically gave these guys all the time in the world to basically go out and deliver a great match. And Aussie Open, holy shit, man, those guys are amazing on what they do. They're just fantastic. Shout out to Aussie Open. But not only shout out to Aussie Open, shout out to Rhett, Titus, and Tracy Williams. They were great as well. Eddie Kingston in a quick match taking on Bendejo, which was hilarious to say, or I should say Pendejo, which is funny. Code of Honor is applied. Both lock up. He takes Bendejo to the corner, but then Eddie no-sells a chop. Eddie then goes for repeated chops, and then we go for an exploder suplex, and then he goes for the spinning back fist, and then he gets the win. Great stuff overall. Now, this was the key thing that I really wanted to talk about regarding this review. Eddie Kingston gets the microphone, and he says, cut the music. And, hey, Claudio, ROH World Champion. He basically calls him out at this point. And he says, don't be scared. And what happens? Claudio immediately comes out. And Eddie wastes no time, and he tells Claudio that he wants a shot for that Ring of Honor World Championship. And he tells Eddie he wants to be a champion and a fighter, right? For once in your life, do business correctly. Holy shit, that was a deep line right there by Eddie Kingston, because I believe they actually hated each other because of, shit that happened in Chikara, I believe it was. I believe that was the promotion that they were a part of years ago, and that's why they didn't really like each other. But he says, for once in your life, do business correctly. And then Claudio goes for the microphone, and he says, Edward, a man without honor will never be a champion. And then Claudio walks away, and Eddie Kingston follows him. And then once we're backstage, Lexi Nair comes in and interviews him and asks him, what just happened? Claudio then states, did I stutter? After that, he walks away, but then Eddie Kingston comes in, and he asks her, where's Claudio? Where's Claudio? And then leaves. It's safe to say that this feud is definitely heating up. I'm very intrigued about what they're going to be doing. If anything, these guys are going to be delivering a banger of a match, most likely at Supercard of Honor. Even though the shows are taped, I haven't been looking at the spoilers for ROH, but hopefully what they do is, they really build this match very good. I wouldn't even be surprised if they went even forward and kind of dragged this on to Dynamite. That'd be very interesting to say. I don't think they would do that, but at the same time, it'd be something very interesting to do. Now, most likely this match will be happening at Supercard of Honor. That's my guess, but I may be personally wrong. But overall, man, Eddie Kingston versus Claudio, sign me the fuck up. And it's very interesting at this point because now we know that the Blackpool Combat Club are heels, and we know most likely coming into this match that Eddie Kingston is going to be the babyface in this match. Now, I talked about this on the Dynamite review, and I talked about how Bryan Danielson in that video package that they aired, a very good emotional video package that they aired on the Dynamite show. Danielson says that, after this match, Maxwell was right, MJF was right, and it's time for me to go home. What does Danielson imply from that? Now, if we really think about it, I don't think we really should be thinking too deep of this, but at the same time, some fans on social media, and I don't blame them, were saying, hey, what does Danielson say, by saying, hey, it's time for me to go home. It looks like Danielson is not, I don't think he's going to be part of the Blackpool Combat Club anymore. Some people were even saying that he's going to show up on Ring of Honor. Now, what does that do with Claudio? I have absolutely no idea since he's currently feuding with Eddie Kingston. Do I think Eddie Kingston is going to beat Claudio? I actually do not know. There's a possibility of a chance that that may actually happen, and I'd be fine with it because I feel like Eddie Kingston deserves a championship at this point. He's been in AEW since 2020. I think it's time that Eddie Kingston gains or wins singles titles at this point, because every time when he's put in a major program, he ends up losing that match, which, if you look at it from a logic perspective, it makes total sense. But at the same time, we are talking about a guy with the talent, that being Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston has the best talent in the world, and I feel like he needs to get rewarded. Is the ROH World title definitely the direction to go for him? I have absolutely no idea. But again, I think Claudio and Eddie Kingston are going to be delivering a fantastic match, most likely at Supercard of Honor. In our final match, we got the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship match between Athena defending her title against Willow Nightingale. This match was really good. A lot of people criticized Athena when she first came into AEW, rightfully so, considering the fact that there was really no real direction with Athena, in my opinion. And I don't want to hear people saying, oh, but she was been wrestling on Dark. No, there was no direction for Athena whatsoever. But thankfully, there's another brand in Ring of Honor, and now Athena is the women's champion. And I think Athena being the women's champion of Ring of Honor makes total sense. And I think it's the best decision that, one of the best decisions that Tony Khan has made. I think Athena has been doing very good as the ROH Women's Champion, and I think she's going to be very dominant for the next couple of months in Ring of Honor. But overall, what are my thoughts on this match? This match was fucking amazing. I loved this match. So at this point, the Code of Honor is applied. Both lock up. We get an arm drag by Athena. We then get a side headlock by Athena, followed by a shoulder tackle by Willow Nightingale. We then get a shoulder tackle once again by Willow, but then Athena misses the shotgun dropkick. After that, Willow goes for the crossbody. We then get a cover and a near fall. We get a right hand by Athena, but then we get a slap by Athena, but then Willow goes for the right hand. Willow then goes for the Three Amigos. After she goes for the Three Amigos, we get a cover and a near fall. She then misses a chop, but then we get a double overhand chop. She goes for the double overhand chop on the back of Athena. At this point, Athena is on the apron, but then she drives her down on the arm of Willow, but then at this point, Athena is in control. We get a kick by Athena, but then she drives her knee onto the back of Willow. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Athena goes for a forearm on Willow into the corner. We get a shot to the back of Willow once again, but then we get a kick to the knee of Athena. She drives the head. So basically what happens is Athena drives the head of Willow to the mat. After that, Willow tries to fight back. Athena then drives Willow down using her hair, but then Athena goes for the senton. We get a roll-up by Willow, and we get a near fall. After that, Willow goes for the waistlock, but then Athena goes through the ropes, which drives down the rope onto the neck. Basically, she drives the rope down to the neck of Willow Nightingale. At this point, Athena is in full 100% control. We get a drop kick, taking Willow to the outside. Willow tries to fight back. We get repeated shots onto the back of Willow onto the outside. She drives Willow to the steel steps. After that, we get repeated back elbows by Willow, but then Willow gets driven headfirst onto the steel steps. After that, Willow gets her arm wrapped onto the post. Athena pulls the shoulder onto the post, which looked brutal. And then at this point, Willow is stuck on the inside of the steel steps. So basically, her hand is stuck in the interior portion of the steel steps. And what happens is Athena, which is crazy to think, Athena hits a shotgun dropkick onto the arm of Willow with her arm inside the steps. If that is not brutal, I do not know what is. That was crazy. Back in the ring, we get a dropkick on Willow, drives her back to the outside. At this point, Athena is on the apron. She tries to go for the Hurricane Rana, but then Willow goes for the powerbomb onto the apron. And then Willow picks her up, but then Willow drives Athena onto the floor, which looked fucking brutal. We get a bunch of ROH chants by the crowd. Of course, ROH has a 20 count instead of a 10 count. So both women come back into the ring at the count of 18. Athena then screams, "She ain't shit." Then she pie faces Willow. After that, Willow goes for a couple of forearms, followed up with a hip attack. At this point, she hits a boot, and then she follows up with the spine buster. We get a cover and a near fall. And then Willow goes for the gut wrench, but then Athena then drives, her arm. Crap, I messed up my notes right there. My apologies. She goes for the double knees, but then applies the crossface on Willow. And then she applies the Fujiwara armbar. We get a roll-up by Willow, and then we get a near fall, followed by the double knees by Athena on Willow in the corner. Athena then picks her up and drives her down. We get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Athena gets pissed, but then Athena goes to the top. Willow then gets up, but then Athena runs into a pounce. And I loved the commentators on this. So as soon as Willow hit the pounce, the commentators literally screamed, "Pounce, slow stop, period." Shout out to Monty Brown. So after that, we get a cover and a near fall. Athena goes for the drop kick. We get a springboard by Athena, but then she gets caught by Willow. She then hits the powerbomb. We get a cover and a near fall once again, but then Athena walks up the ramp, but then Willow comes in. Athena then gouges the eyes of Willow, but then she picks up Willow and drives her to the ramp. She sends her to the steel steps, but then Athena goes to the top. Then she goes for the O-face on Willow. We get a cover, and Athena retains the ROH Women's Championship. After the match, she takes the belt onto the floor. She basically wants to attack Willow, but then the referees block her. So what happens is Willow walks away, but then Athena hits her with the belt from behind and then drives Willow with the double knees. And the show ends with Athena standing tall as your ROH Women's Champion. Overall, this match was fantastic in my opinion. I love Willow Nightingale. She's very good at what she does. I wasn't really the biggest fan of her at first when I was first introduced to her. I believe it was back at Supercard of Honor last year. But overall, man, she's definitely grown on me. And Athena, man. Athena, I feel like they really are going to be doing more with Athena finally. Because they really didn't do anything with Athena when she first signed with AEW. Now, they're definitely going full-fledged with Athena, and I'm very excited to see what they do with her. But overall, that was Ring of Honor from March 9th, 2023. Overall, I thought this show was very good. I thought this show was actually better than last week's show because last week's show didn't really flow the best. I thought this week they really flowed very well, and I think they're definitely going to be doing a lot of things regarding Ring of Honor in the future. And, of course, we are on the road to Supercard of Honor. So that was my Ring of Honor wrestling review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I'm on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Rick signing out. See you guys later.